Vice-Chancellor, fellow council members and staff of the university, graduands, graduates, ladies and gentlemen. It is customary for the university and its guests to gather as a body for the purpose of conferring academic awards on its graduates. To members of a university, a ceremony for the conferring of awards is a particularly important and happy occasion in the university year. To all of you, I extend a warm welcome. To diplomats, graduands and graduates, I offer congratulations and best wishes. Today we've gathered in order that awards may be conferred on those who've satisfied the Council of the University that they have met the requirements for admission to awards undertaken in the University's faculties. The University's mission commits it to the provision of quality education, research training and service in partnership with industry, commerce and the community, regionally, nationally and internationally. The University is also committed to the continuous improvement of all that it does. The University's record of achievement, particularly in research, is outstanding. In 1996, the University ranked 9th out of the 36 public universities in terms of its research grant income. This places it higher in the research league table than a number of the so-called sandstone universities. It is an exceptional performance and is a credit to the many world-class researchers who work here. Also, during 1996, the university was successful in winning 2 new cooperative research centres out of the 8 which were established last year. This too is an exceptional achievement for the university and its academic staff. The university has also been successful in winning funding for its proposed Indigenous Postgraduate Training and Research Centre, Umaliko. It is only one of 5 Australian universities to have won such a centre, and the only one of the 5 which is located on the eastern seaboard. These achievements are worthy in themselves. Additionally, however, because there is a synergistic relationship between teaching and research, active researchers are able to ensure that their undergraduate teaching reflects cutting-edge technology or other new developments or discoveries. Education today is about the acquisition of lifelong learning skills. I believe the awards to be conferred upon our diplomats, graduates and graduates today will qualify them to make significant contributions in the local, national and in the case of some, the international community. Lastly, I take this opportunity to remind those receiving their testamers that as diplomats and graduates of the university, you automatically become members of Convocation. You thus join some 45,000 other graduates and have an opportunity through elected representatives to become involved in the governance of the university. Through Convocation, you'll also be kept informed of the activities and developments of the university. By the authority conferred upon me by the Council, I will now formally confer academic awards. Will all candidates for admission to degrees and other awards please stand? In the name of the Council and by my authority as Chancellor, I confer the awards specified in the programme on all those graduands, graduates and diplomats who are present today, and in absentia on those unable to be present. I now call on the Dean of the Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences to present diplomats and graduates from that faculty.
Chancellor, I present to you candidates who have satisfied the requirements for the award of the Diploma in Occupational Health and Safety, John Harris. I beg your pardon, John Harris is not here. I present to you Gregory Turner. Chancellor, I present to you graduates of the degree of Bachelor of Applied Science, Consumer Science, Jennifer Davis. Holly Dewar. Barbara Folbig. Stephen Kelly. Linda Kalaga. Christy McCallum. Sally Mays. Nicole McQuillan. Andrew Mulca. Jacqueline Mitchell. Shannon Mully. Nadine O'Mara. Matt Owens. Vanessa Russon. Michael Sargent. Michelle Vangeloff. The Chancellor, I present to you a graduate of the degree of Bachelor of Applied Science, Consumer Science with merit, Julia Page. I present to you a graduate of the degree of Bachelor of Applied Science, Consumer Science with honours, Class 2, Division 1, Diane Lindsay. Chancellor, I present to you graduates of the degree of Bachelor of Applied Science, Medical Radiation Technology, Diagnostic Strand, Tracy Baus. Alison Butler. Nicole Crawley. Anthony Dixon. Tracy Drinkwater. Michael Fawcett. Leanna Feltrin. Todd Flaherty. Alana Foran. Kristen Kearney. Danielle Kennedy. Tanya Kramer. Katrina Lane. Heidi Luton. Eva Marushak. Daniel Moran. Marika O'Toole. Jennifer Powell. Natalie Reynolds. Christian Ryan. Kay Ryan. Philippa Sawyer. Simone Silva. I present to you graduates of the degree of Bachelor of Applied Science, Medical Radiation Technology, Diagnostic Strand, with merit, Jackie Archer. Nadine Flanagan. Michelle Cowell. Alina Mascaro. Alison Schofield. Craig Sparrow. I present to you graduates of the degree of Bachelor of Applied Science, Medical Radiation Technology, Radiation Therapy, Mark Bagnall. Kylie Burns. Belinda Margetts. Alison McSkimming. Rowan McSwan. Belinda Murray. Justine O'Connell. Melanie Offner. Laurie Parham. Belinda Shepherd. Alison Soprano. Belinda Webb. I present to you a graduate of the degree of Bachelor of Applied Science, Medical Radiation Technology, Radiation Therapy with Merit, Naomi Findlay. I present to you graduates of the degree of Bachelor of Applied Science, Medical Radiation Technology, Nuclear Medicine, Nicole Beveridge. Coralie Doust. Chancellor, I present to you graduates of the degree of Bachelor of Health Science, Nutrition and Dietetics, Kerry Bailey. Vanessa Bridge. Alicia Dalton. Leslie Dawson. Katrina Ebril. Margaret Fitzgerald. Alison Hopkins. Martina Mayer. Leah Marmula. Ian MacDonald. Alicia Page. Denise Page. Jody Raffin. Simon Sadler. Kate Ciarant. Kelly Seymour. Gregory Stevens. Alison Tickle. Claire Toohey. Tam Vo. Joanne Wilson. I present to you graduates of the degree of Bachelor of Health Science, Nutrition and Dietetics, with honours, Nikki Dowling. Roslyn Smith. Linda Watson. Chancellor, I present to you graduates of the degree of Bachelor of Health Science, Occupational Therapy, Rodney Drake. Emma Graham. Brian Hill. Dan Lowry. Kylie White. I present to you graduates of the degree of Bachelor of Health Science, Occupational Therapy, with honours, Nadine Somerville. Donna Wright. Chancellor, I present to you a graduate of the degree of Bachelor of Medical Science with honours Class 2, Division 2, Narelle Savage. I present to you a graduate of the degree of Bachelor of Medical Science with honours Class 2, Division 1, Vincent Caristo. I present to you graduates of the degree of Bachelor of Medical Science with honours Class 1, Jonathan Ball. Monique Taylor. Chancellor, I present to you graduates of the degree of Bachelor of Medicine. Stuart Allaburton. Gillian Arthur. Catherine Baer. Kirsten Bailey. Tony Barham. Stephen Barnett. Rebecca Byers. Lee Benny. Sarah Bentley. Karen Bellow. Kate Bessie. Stuart Burt. Jacqueline Bongers. Jocelyn Branson. David Brockman. Melanie Brown. Catherine Browning. David Burgess. Sally Butchers. Michelle Butler. Margaret Carmody. Vicky Chase. Stephen Cousins. Sarah Dalton. Robert Disney. Asiye Doxanakis. Michelle Elam. Andrew Ellis. Catherine Erry. Jane Gordon. Anusha Guruj. Charlotte Hall. Leon Harvey Smith. Fiona Hatton. Catherine Hellier. Deborah Heron. Jane Ho. Caroline Hogan. Rachel Hughes. Darshini Jayaratnam. Mark Johnson. Michael King. Kristen Klimch. Sharon Laura. Michael Lonergan. Kathy Love. Darren Marshall. Celia Nethery. John Pawley. Marianne Piggin. Tobias Pincock. Fernando Roncolato. Samantha Rothwell. Natalie Rutherford. Ming Tan. Scott Twaddell. Fiona Van Leuven. Christine Watson. Meredith Webb. Claudia White. I present to you graduates of the degree of Bachelor of Medicine with honours. Luki Ball. Alison Blatt. Meredith Blatt. Ron Campbell. Wei Han Chua. Kate Cross. John Ella. Victoria Howell. Tiam Heng Lim. John Markham. David Manning. William Mully. Kate Pennington. Fiona Pringle. Paul Wilson. Chancellor I present to you candidates who have satisfied the requirements for the award of the Graduate Diploma in Clinical Epidemiology, Sheikh Akhtar. Pravat Barua. Abidul Haq. Yan Hong. Erica Morse. Chancellor, I present to you candidates who have satisfied the requirements for the award of the Graduate Diploma in Epidemiology, Michael Ortiz. Sana Ullah Tareen. Chancellor, I present to you candidates who have satisfied the requirements for the award of the Graduate Diploma in Epidemiology, Clinical Epidemiology. Janine Duke. David Wheeling. Chancellor, I present to you candidates who have satisfied the requirements for the award of the Graduate Diploma in Genetics Counselling. Sula Christodoulou. Susan Fawcett. Marika Hammerstrom. Danielle Herbert. Caroline James. Elvira Siliakis. Chancellor, I present to you a candidate who has satisfied the requirements for the award of the Graduate Diploma in Health Promotion, Santini Kumaran. Chancellor, I present to you candidates who have satisfied the requirements for the award of the Graduate Diploma in Health Science, Clinical Drug Dependent Studies, Jane Broadbent. Diane Dunning. Chancellor, I present to you candidates who have satisfied the requirements for the award of the Graduate Diploma in Health Science, Primary Health Care, Deborah Jones. Catherine O'Connell. Chancellor, I present to you a candidate who has satisfied the requirements for the award of the Graduate Diploma in Health Science, Women's Health, Elizabeth Anderson. Chancellor, I present to you candidates who have satisfied the requirements for the award of the Graduate Diploma in Medical Statistics. Judy Alexander. Gordon Calcino. Jane Fryer. Patrick McElduff. Chancellor, I present to you candidates who have satisfied the requirements for the award of the Graduate Diploma in Occupational Health and Safety. Christine Coots. Tiffany Heathcote. Robert Jenner. Monica Miles. Diana Rose. Margaret Thorkins. Tim Squents. Chancellor, I present to you a graduate of the degree of Master of Health Science, Primary Health Care, Barbara Leapins. Chancellor, I present to you graduates of the degree of Master of Health Services Management, Philip McConnell. Marilyn Wrightson. Chancellor, I present to you graduates of the degree of Master of Occupational Health and Safety, Jeffrey Dunleavy. Bill Hanna. Chancellor, that concludes the presentation of diplomates and graduates from the Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences.
I call on the Pro-Vice Chancellor Research to present research higher degree candidates.
Chancellor, I present to you graduates of the degree of the Master of Medical Science, Health Promotion. I present to you Margaret Ann Lewis, Bachelor of Science of this university, and Miss Lewis's thesis is on the prevalence of HIV and AIDS workplace policies. Chancellor, I present to you Christine Marie Wilkinson, Graduate Diploma of Health Science in the discipline of Health Promotion of this university. Miss Wilkinson's thesis is on the evaluation of a hepatitis B vaccination program for neonates in the Hunter Health area. Chancellor, I present to you a graduate of the degree of Master of Health Master of Science, Health Professions. I present to you Anthony Neil Smith, Bachelor of Science of this university. Mr. Smith's thesis is on radiation dose in head CT scans and the influence of scanning protocol. Chancellor, the degree of Doctor of Philosophy is awarded to a graduate who has successfully completed a prescribed program of study, principally of research. A thesis embodying the outcomes of the research is the principal basis of examination. The degree is only awarded if the thesis makes a significant and original contribution to knowledge and the understanding of the field of knowledge with which it is concerned. Today, the university is proud to honour Doctor of Philosophy graduates who have satisfied these rigorous criteria for the award of the degree. Chancellor, I present to you Billy Bonavesky, Bachelor of Arts of this university. Ms. Bonavesky's thesis is entitled Increasing Preventive Care in General Practice and Examination. Dr. Bonavesky. Chancellor, I present to you Jacinta Mary Kavanagh, Bachelor of Science of this university. Dr. Kavanagh's thesis is entitled The Functional and Molecular Properties of Glutamate Receptors During the Maturation Period of Chicken Brain Development. Dr. Kavanagh. Chancellor, I present to you Glenda Gale Latimer-Foote, Bachelor of Arts from this university. Dr. Latimer-Foote's thesis is entitled Needs Assessment in Tertiary and Secondary Oncology Practice, a Conceptual and Methodological Exposition. Dr. Latimer-Foote. Chancellor, that concludes the presentation of research higher degree graduates.
I now call upon the Vice-Chancellor to present the University's Award for Excellence in Teaching.
Chancellor, I have pleasure in presenting to you Ms. Lynette Mackenzie, a lecturer in the discipline of Occupational Therapy, to receive the University's Award for Excellence in Teaching. Ms. Lynette Mackenzie has made strong contributions in developing the problem-based learning curriculum for the Bachelor of Health Science Occupational Therapy course. Her breadth of clinical experience and understanding of the role of a clinical fieldwork supervisor, together with her organisational skills, have brought notable improvements in clinical fieldwork placements for both occupational therapy students and clinical fieldwork supervisors. She has shared these improvements with other Australian universities, with many being applied to their own courses. As a direct consequence of her expertise, Ms. Mackenzie was invited to join the executive of the New South Wales Association of Occupational Therapists to provide specialist advice. Ms. Mackenzie is a skilled and enthusiastic educator who promotes teaching excellence within the framework of continuous improvement. Chancellor, Ms. Mackenzie.
I now call on the Vice-Chancellor to present a candidate for an honorary degree.
Chancellor, I have pleasure in presenting to you Dr. John Justin Smythe for admission to the degree of Doctor of Medicine. Chancellor, in awarding Dr. John Smythe the degree of Doctor of Medicine, the University honours not only his personal contributions to Newcastle in these last 50 years, but the contributions of surgery and surgical science to the Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences. This happily coincides with the appointment this year of Professor Alan Spiegelman to the Chair of Surgical Science. 45 years ago, Dr. Smythe pioneered the structured approach to postgraduate surgical training here in Newcastle, and the first initiative in Australia of surgical audit as an essential tool to improve care of patients. Dr. Smythe qualified at the University of Sydney in 1941 with first-class honours and the University Medal. He interrupted his surgical training to volunteer for the Australian Imperial Force, seeing active service in New Guinea and Borneo. He returned to the Royal Newcastle Hospital for surgical training under Dr. Samuel Gardner, gained his fellowship of the Royal Australian College of Surgeons in 1948 and his Master of Surgery in 1950. In 1951, he was appointed Staff Surgeon and subsequently Chief of Surgery and Deputy Chief Executive Officer at the Royal Newcastle Hospital. The hospital was the first in Australia to establish the system of staff specialists. Under this was built a postgraduate program to train clinical specialists. At the time, this was controversial and opposed by the surgical establishment in Sydney, but it was an innovation that others were to follow. In 1951, he introduced the first surgical audit system in Australia based upon a case-by-case review of records and pathology reports. The complete results of these reviews presented a powerful analysis of the practice and quality of clinical care. He described the meetings to review the findings as a scientific forum. 9 years later, in 1959, he published the findings of his audit in the Medical Journal of Australia. It identified patterns of care and complications and demonstrated the beneficial impact of this audit in improvement of the quality of care. This was a landmark study, not at all welcomed by the surgical establishment. The President of the Royal Australian College of Surgeons declared him to be a communist. This study remains as relevant as perceptive today as it was in 1959, and we use it in a number of our own postgraduate courses in clinical quality management. Newcastle sustained the role in audit, including the 1995 Quality in Australian Healthcare Study directed at improving safety and effectiveness of clinical care. Many surgeons in Newcastle and elsewhere owe their training and clinical competence to Dr. Smythe. He modelled his training program after the North American system, emphasising accurate clinical diagnosis and technical expertise. One trainee, himself now retired from practice in Newcastle, recalls Dr. Smythe's unravelling of a diagnostic challenge to be a lesson on every occasion. He was meticulous in operative technique. He assisted trainees by guiding them in the conduct of the operation with a skill quoted by one trainee as beyond all others I've ever worked with. Dr. Smythe's contributions have been a model, excellent clinical care and meticulous audit and their use in education, training and hospital organisation. These bold innovations were largely rejected by the establishment of the time, but have since become a foundation for the developments of the last 50 years in the discipline of clinical surgery in Australia. The University has been very fortunate to have drawn upon the wide achievements of clinical care in this community. Today we recognise those contributions in surgery and honour one of its main contributors in Dr. John Smythe. Chancellor, it is with great pleasure that I present to you John Justin Smythe, Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery of the University of Sydney, Master of Surgery of the University of Sydney, and Fellow of the Australasian College of Surgeons for admission to the degree of Doctor of Medicine.
Well done. By virtue of the authority delegated in me by the Council, I hereby admit John Justin Smythe to the degree of Doctor of Medicine, honoris causa. And today I'd like to ask the Deputy Chancellor, one of Dr. Smythe's oldest friends, to help me make the presentation. We will now have a musical interlude presented by cellist Ms. Jenny Tingley and guitarist Vince Martinelli. They will play a piece by Granados called Playera. you very much. It's my pleasure now to invite Dr. John Smythe to deliver the occasional address.
Mr. Chancellor, Mr. Vice-Chancellor, members of the Council and fellow graduates, ladies and gentlemen. Upon my return from World War II, I went to my old alma mater, which was the Royal Prince Alfred Hospital in Sydney, to ask to be allowed to complete my residency. The Chief Executive then had been a member of the AOF and had also a returned soldier, and he'd had 6 years as opposed to my mere 4. He rather surprised me by saying, now some of you fellas buzzed off to the war as though we'd been to a picnic, and we have to look after the fellas who helped us while you were away, so we can't give you a job back for 18 months. Well, I had a passion to be a surgeon, and I reckon I was already 5.5 years behind, so that would make me 5.5 years behind. So at first I was astonished, and then I became rather angry, and I thought, well, anger will get you nowhere. And so I had heard that up here in Newcastle there was a certain Dr. S.S. Sammy Gardner, who was an elderly surgeon, but he was very kind to young men who wanted to learn surgery. So I saw Sammy, and he sent me off to see Dr. C.J. Chris McCaffrey, who was the ex-superintendent of the Royal Newcastle Hospital. To my mind, he is still the greatest hospital administrator this country has seen. And later on, I became his chief of surgery and also his deputy chief executive. He could be gruff sometimes, but that didn't matter. He had a great way of saying, particularly to Dr. Peter Henry and me, we ought to do this. We were the eager beavers, you see, we'd go and do it. But he'd done the thinking. And one day he thrust into my hands a volume which turned out to be the report of the Haldane Royal Commission in London in 1911. The English had become somewhat disturbed at the standards of their medical training, and they did something quite brilliant. They invited over from the Carnegie Education Foundation in New York one Abraham Flexner. There were two Flexners. His brother was a famous pathologist, but Abraham Flexner was an educationist. Now, he pointed out this commission, and they agreed with him so thoroughly that they gave his remarks almost verbatim in their report. Now, he pointed out there were 3 stages in medical education, of about that time or a little earlier. At first, the young boy went round with his uncle, the doctor, in the sulky, and he saw how uncle questioned patients and treated them, and so he began his training as a doctor as a pure apprentice. Now, as the years went by, although anatomy had been well known for centuries, the disciplines of biochemistry and physiology became much more complicated, and they got a bit beyond uncle. So they started in the universities academics running these departments, and the training in these parts of medical education turned into the universities and into the hands of academics. But the training in the clinical sciences of medicine, surgery and obstetrics and gynecology remained in the hands of the practising profession. What this meant was that if a man had a practice and he was good, it became busier and busier. Now, his main interest was his practice and making a living. And in his spare time, he did a bit of teaching. So it was reckoned that this wasn't good enough. And gradually, the training of these disciplines passed also into the hands of academics in universities. Now, although this commission occurred in 1911, nothing much happened in England, because they had on their hands 2 world wars and nothing really changed. Now, there was another committee formed in London to examine all this under a gentleman with a rather strange name, Lord Goodenough, and hence it was known as the Good Enough Committee. I suppose it wasn't as good as the one we just had. So, with the introduction of the National Health Service in England and the prompting of the Good Enough Committee, gradually the Flexner's 3rd stage, where all of this, the teaching was in the hands of the academics, occurred. So Chris McCaffrey had the idea that he wanted some full-timers in amongst his specialists, not all visiting ones. There was a lot of opposition to this. As a matter of fact, I had finished my registrarship. What we did was to bring boys up from Sydney and guarantee them 3 years of training as resident medical officers, and if they were good, we picked them as registrars for 3 more years. Now, I'd served my 3 years as a registrar, and I was getting a bit pernickety about this, so I went to see old Chris and said, you know, about time we were made specialists. But he was a bit afraid of the reaction from Sydney. But although we were only 100 geographical miles from Sydney, socially we could have been 1,000 miles away, and they didn't care much what we did in Sydney. Well, anyway, Chris appointed one Tony Bond, who was no longer with us, as an orthopaedic surgeon, and me as a full-time general surgeon. We weren't too popular with the locals, and the first medical meeting we went to after this, we received quite a frozen reception. Anyway, Chris persisted with this, and eventually he appointed 21 staff specialists. Now, the duties of a full-time specialist were a bit different from the practicing profession. First of all, they had to care for their patients, and they wouldn't get the job unless they were properly trained. They had to run their units or departments, and they had to teach. And I found that quite early in my registrar training, a great love for teaching. I used to like to say to a kid about 3 months out of his university, son, would you like to do this appendix? And his eyes would light up. And so we would take about 3 or 4 times as long to do it as if I did it myself. I allowed them to do this because on their first day at Royal Newcastle Hospital, we only would allow 6. And our reputation grew so much that you had to have at least second-class honours at Sydney University to get into Royal Newcastle Hospital. On their first day at the hospital, I would meet them as Director of Training, and I'd take them to meet the matron, who was the famous Irene Hall, the most marvellous matron. I took them to see her because I wanted them, as they were young doctors, that when some of the senior nurses, sisters or matron, gave them some advice, don't scorn it. They've been here a long time and they've seen a lot, and they can teach you a lot. Then, as the second place I take them was the pay office, because as you know, in the old days of pounds, shillings and pence, the shilling was known as a bob. So we used to say they'd never earned a bob in their lives until then, so they went and they needed to go and see the pay office. And then I would get out what I called my bag of tricks. In it there was a pair of artery forceps, a knife, some thread, and I would show them carefully how to use a scalpel, artery forceps right and left-handed, scissors right and left-handed, because when the surgeon was operating, you might be holding something right-handed. If you couldn't cut with the left, the surgeon would get a bit curt about it. And for the piece of thread, I showed them how to tie 2-handed surgical knots. There are 2 types of surgical knots, the one-handed knot and the 2-handed knot. The one-handed knot is perhaps a little faster, but if you practice the 2-handed knot, you can become nearly as fast. And when the one-handed knot is done faster and faster, it doesn't become a reef knot at all. But if you tie a reef knot properly, 2-handed, the tighter you pull it, the tighter it gets. It won't come apart. And I teach them that the first day because they might have to put some stitches in somebody's casualty that night. I later on did some of the 50th students out here, and I met them once a week to do some training. And it said, after I'd shown them these few tricks about how to stitch up wounds, a delighted girl came to me with her eyes shining and said, "Oh, Dr. Smythe, I had one in casualty last night and I did all the things you told me, put the injection not through the skin but in through the fat. The kid didn't feel anything. I tied the proper reef knots. She was really beside herself." Now, in 1965, the New South Wales government sent me abroad to study postgraduate training particularly. And of course, the first place I took myself to was the Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore. Now, Johns Hopkins was a very wealthy cotton merchant near Baltimore, and he died in 1873, leaving $7 million to found a hospital, a university and a medical school. The $7 million today, of course, would be $7 billion. But the trustees of his estate were rather cautious. They didn't like to spend any of the principal, but they built the hospital on the interest, and so it wasn't built until 12 years had passed. Now, the 2 of the initial professors, there was still plenty of money left to attract good professors. And 2 of the initial professors were one Halsted and Osler, who was later Sir William Osler. And when these two were appointed, they took themselves straight off to Germany to study the German system, because there was no doubt that at that stage, Germany had the best medical training. And they studied this and then brought it back to Baltimore and started what was called the American residency system of training. Now, I'm sure you'll get a bit confused because we call residents junior residents and senior residents, and now for our junior residents is crept in that infernal name of intern, which of course has come from the movies and the TV. So when the 3 years of residency was finished, we picked them as registrars, and I'm sorry, I'm gone a bit out there. What happened was that the first place I went to was the Johns Hopkins in Baltimore, and I got the usual warm American welcome, stayed there for a while, and picked up as much as I could, and then I took myself off to Germany. Now, by this time, the Germans were quite convinced that they were not nearly as good as America in postgraduate training. But in Hamburg, I was asked to come to see one professor operating one morning at 8 o'clock. And to be polite, I arrived about 20 to 8 and the old boy was inside the abdomen already. I think it was the old ethic of work. And so he was a very affable old gentleman, I suppose about 60. We talked a lot. I'd made sure I was fluent in German before I went there. But I got on well with him. But they had this German, what they called the German pyramidal system. The top of the pyramid was the professor, and then down the next one below him was called the Privatdozent. And men were in this pyramid for a good many years of training, and the standard really was very high. And as I said, the professor was very genial, but the Privatdozent was not. I couldn't get a word with him. And about halfway through the morning, he said to me, "Sind Sie English?" I said, "Nein, Australian." Oh, his eyes lit up. Wonderful soldiers. He thought, against them in the Western Desert, would I come home to dinner? And so from then on, it was quite easy. I had to make sure that I was an Australian, although I spoke English. Of course, they'd forgotten that some of the fellows up there that were dropping the bombs, a lot of them were Australians, but I didn't ever mention that. And so, with these 21 full-timers, as I said, Royal Newcastle had reached Flexner's third stage of education. And it was the only institution in Australia which had reached that stage. Flexner said that, to the Royal Commission that England was frozen in stage 2. And if England was frozen in it, Australia was ossified in stage 2. For example, the City of Melbourne didn't have a full-time professor then. They were practising men who acted as part-time professors. There was a professor of surgery and medicine in Sydney, but they were only relatively recent appointments when I was an undergraduate. And so our institution here was very superior in that regard. And we really had going the best postgraduate training hospital in Australia. So all we needed was some money to get the disciplines of anatomy, physiology and biochemistry going here. Well, time dragged on and we seemed to be getting nowhere, and I said to Chris McCaffrey one day, "May I have a hospital car and go to Canberra, see what I can do?" By the time I got to Goulburn, I thought, I'm a nut, what can I do? But then I had another thought. I'd had a couple of patients. One was Senator Jim Arnold, who was a great family friend actually. He was ALP and I went to see Jim. And so I told him what I was there for. And he said to me, "Well, Jack, it's not much good talking to me. Why don't you talk to Alan Fairhall, on whom I'd also operated?" I only mention these gentlemen's names as a matter of encomium, then Alan Fairhall said to me, "You stay here in the house with Jim." And he said, "Sir Robert Menzies is often quite affable after dinner. I'll see what I can do for you." So I had dinner with Jim, and at the end of dinner I got a message, "Would I come to the cabinet room?" So Alan Fairhall took me in and introduced me to Bob Menzies, and then he retired and left me with the Prime Minister. And I had about an hour with the Prime Minister. He amazed me, of course he'd been a great QC, he amazed me that how I was speaking on my subject and he picked it all up so quickly. So when I came out, Alan Fairhall said to me, "Jack, you're in there a long time. How did you go?" I said, "I think pretty well." So he said, "What did he say?" I said, "Not much." He said, "What did he say?" He said, "At intervals, you're talking sense, talk on." He said, "You must have been ready to kick you out." So he then sent me to see the head of the Australian Universities Commission in Melbourne. And I forget his name, I suppose it's deliberate forgetfulness, but I found him a much harder nut to crack. he wanted to, I found out later, they were going to establish a medical school in Hobart, which had none of our expertise and a population that would have been a fraction of that of the Hunter Valley. And so I thought that was a very bad decision, naturally. And we had to wait quite a time to get our medical school. But as it became obvious to the locals how good the work was that was done, and a lot of them, after all, were under its care, there was an upsurge of, shall I say, challenging emotion amongst the community at large, the Chamber of Commerce, the city councils, and our own medical profession all became so vociferous that Canberra gave in and our medical school was born. Now, you want to know, those of you, mums and dads, who spend so much money on this education of these people, how good are our graduates? Well, soon after our first graduates emerged, I was speaking to one of my fellow surgeons in Sydney, and he said, "Jack, I've got one of your boys from your medical school up there." So I held my breath and he said, "Best resident I ever had." I said, "In that case, we may speak freely." Now, this is the sort of thing that I hear everywhere. A lot of the goodness is due to the fact that Professor Madison put these students out in amongst the community more than was under other schools. And when Professor Hamilton came, he upgraded this even more. And so our graduates are known as people who can talk to patients, talk to relatives, and treat them all with good feeling. And this is due entirely to our two deans. There was, however, I must confess, a great deal of liaison between Royal Newcastle Hospital and the community before the medical school started. But this has been one of the great achievements, this business of bonding the medical profession to the community in their early years. And so I thought you might like to know those good points about our graduates. Your lady, who's your secretary, sent me a former address like this, and it was a very scholarly one with a lot of Greek and Latin allusions in it. I didn't want to speak to you in that fashion. I wanted just to talk to you in much more folksy fashion, and I hope you have enjoyed it.
Dr. Smythe, we all owe you a great deal as a practicing surgeon, as a teacher, and as a person who's been one of the leading lights in the establishment of this medical faculty. I was interested to know that your story did start at 1911, when surgeons were not as well trained as they are today. But I wondered, as you spoke, when did surgeons do the conversion course from barbers to surgeons before 1911? Yeah. Thank you very much, once again. I now have great pleasure in inviting Ms. Naomi Finlay to speak on behalf of the graduates.
Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, Dean, distinguished guests, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Much has changed within the university itself since many of us began our degrees. Buildings have risen, train stations have appeared, faculties have altered and changed. Along with these changes, I am sure we have all changed. My expectations of myself and the professional I would grow to become have altered over this time. My first notion of my budding career as a radiation therapist was considerably naive. I had little knowledge of what was to come, nor what to expect. But I had the excitement and anticipation of a new career. As my experience in the health profession grew through my clinical subjects, I began to expect much more than just slotting in as another piece of a profession's jigsaw. What was so different? I wanted to become a thinker, not a clone of my profession. Quite simply, just like all of you, I wanted to have a career that was built on a foundation of knowledge, without being lost in the crowd, without losing that little something special that each of us has to offer. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the fulfillment for which we all strive. It must be acknowledged that the Faculty of Medicine and Health Science has been instrumental in equipping us for our careers ahead. Firstly, the amalgamation of the Faculty of Medicine and Health Science in 1994 paved the way for future health professionals to begin adopting a multidisciplinary approach to health care, producing graduates that are accustomed to the idea of holistic patient care. The second contributing factor was a woe for many of us as students, I am sure: problem-based learning. Why was it a woe? Being presented with a module with mountains of beginnings with what seemed no ends, accompanied by the reassurance of a familiar line, "Get back to me if you have any problems with that." But it did work. Problem-based learning provides self-direction, self-responsibility in education. It creates reflective, unique practitioners, not clones and not jigsaw pieces. We, of course, had a part to play in our development from students to professionals, as did all those who have supported us and encouraged us so that we may stand here today. For it is an element in each of us, unique to each of us, that will allow all of us to make a difference in our own way. The individuality of each of us can make a difference when approaching a patient with a special social need, a hard and fast technical problem, or an enduring communication problem between colleagues. Your own uniqueness will be a positive element in your approach, providing a fresh perspective to a well-trodden path. Today is a day full of heady emotions, a combination of excitement, pride in our success, and anticipation of our future. But always remember, what another would do, do not do it. What another would say, do not say it. Do what is true to oneself, and thus make thyself indispensable.
Thank you very much, Ms. Findlay, for your speech. I now declare the ceremony concluded. May I invite all present to join us for refreshments, which will be served in and provided by the University Union.
check one too.
Oh, great. Opposite St. College.